Ask yourself how much money you're blowing elsewhere instead of putting it into something constructive, right? You will eat together, all that, but yet so we don't trust. And so we have to trust each other to build with each other, right? Every other community goes out and they do that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Our Lives Narratives. This platform gives everyday people the opportunity to tell their stories and share their experiences so we can continue to impact the world at large. Our guests come from all walks of life, and today I'm so excited to have in our midst a gentleman that has been quite pivotal in the urban scene in Edmonton. He's been referred to as the Godfather, a pioneer, and the granddaddy. So kindly help me welcome our guest for today, Orville Havana Green. You are welcome to this podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I'm very excited to be here. So, and I guess I'm the godfather, as in I have godfather a few things, and I'm the grandfather because my son is here now, and I've helped to lay the foundation for Alberta on the urban side of things and on a global scale. So I'm thankful. So let's rock and roll.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today. And I cannot wait for our viewers out there to pick your brain and, tap into some of your experiences. You guys are in for a treat, so stay put.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about Havana Orville. And you go by the stage name WayZ.
The WayZ, it's the WayZ man, right? That's where the name come from. I had a artist on the label. His name was Reason, and one was actually another one was Loyalty, and so we had a different construct. But Orville Havana is my a joint name, right? People always call me one or the other, right? So it's kind of funny. My son is the original of the Havanas. That's my son, right? But musically, getting that name at a young age because it was just the way people see me, the way people looked at what we were going about, and again, as I say, ways, because again, the ways of man, and you either have good, bad, sad. The emotional in the scale, right? And so that's where the artist name came from, and it just stuck with me, and I'm always just ride with it.
Nice. So how did when did you first fall in love with music, and what was that journey like? Where did it start?
Truthfully, I think in my mother's belly.
Okay, nice.
I'm, what people don't know is I never moved for the whole 10 months, because people think it's 9, it's 10. For the whole, I never moved in the womb, right? And so my mom always thought something's wrong with me. So she would always get paranoid and go to the hospital. And the doctor's no, the guy's fine. Let him be. But she would play music, and because she sang and all that stuff, right? So I think coming from that and just my surroundings, where I remember my sister introduced me to Anita Baker. Now, Anita Baker, a lot of people don't know, she was the original R&B singer that Toni Braxton took the style from, right? So she laid the groundwork. This was from the 70s, 80s, all the way through.
Right.
Excellent singer. That's before my sister, because my sister would always get these great tapes from the era of tapes,
I remember.
right? And so it's so, because my sister was into that as well, and she's like, I think 13 years older than me. She was like, so would get stuff ahead, right?
Yeah.
And between that, between just like the cultural construct of like the music that we had to listen to and just vibe, like, you don't have a cookout if you don't have good music.
That's right.
Right? And so between that, good music, good food, all that, so it became a part of like the structure of what we would be. But when we were young, we didn't even thought about like that place, like meaning that we're going to get into the music and try to do this thing. It just gradually, as time rolled out, I think my decision came, I think it was like 92, like the ending of 92. Columbia House. Oh, Columbia House. Oh man, I was expecting, because Columbia House was this like, you would have to like, you get these brochure in the mail, and then like you would like write up what you want and send it. And I remember the album that we wanted was Nas's first album. And Nas's first album came, and we're like, all right, we got to get this. So you have to write it, send it. Sometimes it takes weeks. And we're like, oh, why are we waiting on this?
Yeah.
But then when it comes, it was joyful, right? So you and a few of the flocks would get around and listen to this like thing, right? And I remember like one of my buddy, he had the first like Discman, the CD player.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, this is it. And like, we're going places
Excited.
now. And, like, from that, it was just like, all right, we can do our stuff too, right? And, as the time evolved, that's, like, we got more and more intrigue into it. And it's wonderful, when I sit back and I think of like just the spaces and the reality, because for me, I'm blessed in the sense that when I speak something, I see it through, right? That's why, like, I hate to be negative to anything, because I always believe it's going to come back.
The power
and
of the
haunt.
tongue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And so, so as the artists start coming together, like we had to get the label in peace. But at the same time, as I remember registering it at 106 license. Like they register like, I was like, oh man, we're so excited. And we went there, got it, and it was just different, because now it was just like we're a label, but we don't know nothing about nothing. We're kids, right? And so bit by bit, we started like just figure it, right? But I was doing paperwork, basement, writing stuff down, talking to my friends, this, that, but then still going outside to go play basketball, or still going like getting to school. And so there was so much as a child, right? But it was like, okay, what can we do? And I remember I had a girlfriend. Oh, Tanya. That was her name. Yes. And
Tanya, where are you?
Like she was like like one of my first girlfriend. I remember her mom, it's like, what are you gonna do with your life, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna have the biggest independent label. And
how old were you then? You said
I was at this point, I think I was 15.
Okay.
Like, but that was like the conversation, right? And when I got to that point, I look back at what I said then, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So years later, when we became the biggest and the strongest, and the concerts are flowing in and all that, I look back and I said, well, I've achieved what I stated at that point.
Nice.
The lady's gone long gone, but what I stated, what I spoke to her at the table, I never forget it. Like, we achieved it. And that's what I said, like, you have to always be prepared to go the distance, and be truthful to self, but truthful to those around you as well. Like it takes you far. So I've always been very thankful for my Duggonites. It's like Knights of the Round Table. You know what I'm saying? We look out for each other. We
This is
build
your
with each other.
community that you're from?
My community, Duggan.
Okay.
The Southwest is the best, they say,
Yeah.
right? But
Nice.
but within the community, we had the elders. So we had a guy, Anel. Anel is from originally from Ethiopia, right? We had guys from Eritrea, Akan's Pops, like Nigeria. So like we have the elders, and it's kind of, as I say, like within the process of like discussion, before we go and do anything stupid, we would always like, they'll either see it ahead coming and adjust us. Like, what are you guys doing? Like,
That's really...
and it's wonderful because I find myself now doing that to the young kids, right? But I'm very thankful because without that core, and like my one of my partners, Pops, like Renee, right? Like from El Salvador, he was like, like the old man that would fix bikes and do all these things. And, like all that helped to give us like and bridge us into who we became later on, and I'm thankful for it. There's no, I know guys that move away and they're like, man, it's like a foreign country. And I'm like, yo, and then they move back, right? Because our community has always been very, very together.
Yeah.
And no matter what occur, we have always looked out for each other, right? So till this day, we got guys that live in some of the finest place in the city, but they still represent for the community, and guys overseas, and it's wonderful, so I'm blessed with that.
Nice.
So that's where the whole process comes in.
And within when I introduced you, what I didn't mention is you're born Canadian to Jamaican and Canadian mom, right? Is that correct? Your roots.
My roots is weird.
Okay, tell us.
Because like we're North American in general.
Okay.
Like so my mom's like one of the rare species. Okay. So my mom's dad is a Black Indian, right? We're the original people of the Western Hemisphere, right? So to see us, we just look regular like anybody else, like regular Black folks.
Okay.
But our line comes from that, like on my mom's dad's side. Her mom's side, they're Black Jews. That comes from Israel, 1505, right? And so it's a very, very unique, and my dad's side, they're American and Asian.
Okay.
So it's a cluster of, so it's all the North American madness, I call it, right? And so, but I was blessed to grow there, like Central America and North America, right?
Okay.
So all in the mix of traveling,
right,
and seeing and learning family members and all that stuff, right? So I always look at it where it's like, like growing up in Jamaica, which was funny. I like to call it like a hit in my head, where me and one of Bob Marley's cousin were sitting on this wall together. I didn't know that it was like it was like cousins, but we were playing young and we fell off, and and it's hilarious how all that pieces. But again, to go like the music, the love, the vibe, the food, right? And so, you go to Panama. Panama have a different sound of music, but it's influenced from that as well.
Okay.
And just the development within that, right? And so take you back all the way, the Canadian side as well, right? And, and down south, right? Like, I don't know if you know about Rosewood, right? Rosewood was where like in the 1919, black folks were slaughtered in Florida, right? My family lived in Gainesville. Gainesville is also one of the places where like the black folks would come over, but Gainesville always had a stronger population in a sense, right? That's on one side. So South Carolina, North Carolina, like Greensville, we strong, right? So there's a lot of different process that makes me me. And so as my son grew, what was funny is I would send him to places and he didn't understand why I was sending him to places. Because on my son's mom's side, they were the first black boxers in Canada, first, as well, out of Windsor, right? And so Rosa Parks would come to their family gathering as well, right? And so he needed to know where his line come from. So in that way, like when everything all said and done and he brings back what it is, so I call him the first of the first,
Yeah.
So it's hilarious in that construct, but between us, that's what makes it very unique. And, like I always try to let people know, like we live in a rich city, for instance, but the history that they don't tell us about our folks, like nobody asks about Lulu Anderson, right? Now, it goes over people's head. Lulu Anderson was here 40 years before the sister from Nova Scotia was fighting for black people, right? She couldn't get into a bar. It's no more in Jasper. Vaughn's, the location isn't turned into Vaughn's now. When we were kids, that location was still there. It was still a live venue, and they wouldn't let her in. This was not in the 1912s, right? Across the street where CIBC is, that bank, that used to be the head office, the home of the Ku Klux Klan. So a lot of people don't know what it is to be Albertan. When I say Alberta, right, and I give, like my family gave blood to this, it's like we gave blood to this. We stood up for ours. We have always have, and we always will. And so by God, that's a piece of it. So
awesome.
this is me.
That is unique.
Yes, this is me.
And the fact that you used to go back, visit, and then
my mom would, we would go there, like my abuela, rest in peace. Like she gave us, it was wonderful. You learn the culture, you learn the things. We went to school, we like all kind of things. You know what I mean? Like it's just it got to a point where even when I would return, a lot of people think, hey, this guy's straight off the boat. They say, yeah, I'm happy with that.
So that's good. At least you embraced that experience, because definitely
it's a must.
Changes how
the point of views and all that. But that's but we also understood, and I think on the political side, because you get to grew there and grew here, we got to see the behavior globally of the different political structures, right? And now it gave me a better understanding of how and what it is. Because for me, at the end of the day, it's like as what I was telling you, it's like loyalty to my folks, right? Meaning that we have to look and build with us, right? We have to look after us because nobody else is going to do it.
True.
And I can go and have a beer with a guy down the street and this and that. It doesn't matter. I don't have ill will towards a person. I just know that I want to spend my money within my community.
And we're going to talk all about that community aspect.
Let's keep rolling.
So then, having that perspective outside North America definitely helps, right? Because then you see things from a different lens and you could compare, and then it makes you more grateful of some of the opportunities. Well, and then you're mixing cultures as well. You're bringing,
and that's
that's
a part of it. That's why when we say, because Tough House as a whole.
So let's talk about Tough House now.
when the label itself was being established, right? After it was a lot of fight meaning like uphill,
Right.
right? But everything that we had, I bankrolled it through my hard work. Some credit cards. Shout out to the credit card folks, and the willingness to see ahead, right? Because our goal was, we wanted to be on White Ave, for instance, right?
So, not to cut you, what is Tough House? Like, break it down for us.
Tough House as a whole is a music label.
Okay.
It's a studio. It's a clothes brand, and it's an international promotional construct.
Okay.
Right? And so that's what it grew out into over the years. And, we do concerts. We have, clothes, right? And so I try, but it's also a safe space, right? It's a safe space in the sense that because life travels so fast, for instance, people want to do things, but there's no place that they can go and sit, right? We also do counseling, right? Because I think that's a major issue within our community. People don't have places to speak and people to speak to. So we do that, right? I've been counseling the artists since time.
Nice.
So I'm blessed. When people like, oh, you got gray, I say, yes, wisdom.
That's right.
Right? And so, but that's a part of the aspect with Tough House. And Tough House Tough House Worldwide is working with the international artists.
Okay.
And then bringing them underneath the house label, because the reason why even the label itself was named Tough House is because we looked at what every form of music is Black music, but every process of music have their own room. And within the house, everybody have their room.
Awesome.
Right? And so this is what it was coming into as well. But on a wider scale, you are, in the Bible it said what? Protect your house, right? Your spirit, your body.
Yeah.
And so that's us as well. And so we wanted to make sure that when the different people would come in, they see a crazy kid running, yelling at somebody, but they know that it's love. You know what I mean? It's that's the basic
thing. It's a community, a family. Basically.
It's a family. Yeah. And I'm thankful again because the amount of different artists that we have worked with and the radio personnels and all that, it's been wonderful. I have some of my greatest connection and relationships, guys from Manitoba to Toronto to Montreal, Mexico, Chile. It comes in on a wide scale. So for Tough House, banging away, trying to lay the groundwork for Alberta, because we had in Edmonton alone, we had a lot of legendary crew, like Politic Live, for instance.
Yeah.
Their original name was Straight Lace, right?
Okay.
And so you had Smash Benz with Fatty Jones and all those guys. And, then you had WayZ and the low budget affiliate, right? And what's funny is those guys, the low budget affiliate would look at us and you guys are mainstream. And I was mainstream? Why? But I guess as time passed and we see them more and more of them, and shout out to Captain Abdul. People don't give Captain Abdul the props that he deserved. Without the captain, a lot of stuff would not been sale. When I say he was one of the first guy that was putting on events in the city, right? He put on local events, he put on main events, and it's wonderful, to see how much the city have grown into that, but my last year we had the Junos here, and a lot of guys was oh man, where are you? My son went, but for me, I'm I'm not going to the Junos.
Why not?
Why? One, we have a lot of homeless people just outside of that place. I can't be eating caviar and the finer things when my community, meaning like my city, have overrun and overdose in the central and elsewhere of homeless people. Right? I'm the kind of guy that will give you the homeless people my food. Right? Why? Because like I believe we have more than enough to share amongst the people.
True.
Right? And we like, in order for us to increase the value that the Creator have given us, because earth is bountiful, you know what I mean, we have to like step off from greed. Right? So I'm not going to dress up and be this puppet when they still also overlook the urban scene in Alberta.
So that brings me to this question. Then and now, though, have you seen some positive move or change?
The change,
because you mentioned there wasn't any, kind of like there were other genres, right, in the city, but not so much hip hop and R&B.
When for Alberta, like Alberta Foundation for the Arts,
okay,
right? My son, you know, shout out to Havana.
Hey,
like, so my son was, at the time he was 4 months.
Okay.
I had him in his carrier. You know, anywhere I go, I strive with him. And I remember the album that I released. It was because Reason Letters on Paper came out, it did all right. But that's I released WayZ Streets. And I know my community because, again, as I say, my guys were, the kids from the neighborhood were selling CDs like hotcakes in school, in the back alleys, anywhere they were just like hype that somebody from their neighborhood has now released. So it became like, you know, like till this day, people are still like, I need those CDs because they're a part of my childhood, right? And it's wonderful. But when we released that album, like I had to go. There was a meeting where A Channel, like downtown, and one of the anchor for A Channel was a country singer. She was to some people she was a looker, meaning a good looking lady, and they're just talking about like just rock, country, and that was it. There's nothing to do with like. So I went there because the reason why I went there because I wanted to make sure that they understand that we're not going to hide in the back alley anymore. We're here. And by any means, we're going to kick the store down and then let everybody else in, right? But because I knew that my CDs were selling, and I knew like we weren't scared to say, hey, $5, you know what I mean, like hand to hand if we have to. I had a buddy, he was based in Red Deer, who would come up and he would pick up 4 or 5 boxes and just buy it out of his own pocket and give it to his homies, right? This is a part of, as I say, like the structure that we were coming from, the neighborhood, right? And so when we got to that meeting, like Al, he was the head for Alberta Foundation for the Arts, and after it was all said and done, I stood up, I said, hey, you guys haven't said nothing like about like urban music and nothing to help us. Like when we sell out and we get bigger, I'll make sure the first thing I do is say these guys didn't help us because they were also getting federal grants for art within Alberta.
Yeah, but you guys were not like the urban scene was.
They weren't looking at us at all. So right then and there, again, I have my kid with me.
Yeah.
So Al told me, hey, just come to my office next, on Tuesday. So from that, I went. And we continue to chit-chat and all that till the day that he went to Washington, D.C. to represent Alberta, right? But that opened the door up. And because of the way that I am, I went and I got Orlo Maverick or Marlin, whatever that it is. I went and got him and I showed him the route so he could let everybody else in, right? And I moved on because that's the factor, that's who I am, right? Like Kaz, I brought Kaz for Factor. You can, if you ever see him, ask him. Factor is East Coast. You have to sign up. You have to be a part of the association, all that. right? It's grand for artists. I got them on there, showed them how to do it. Then I moved on, right? Because I like to be in the shadow. The power is in the shadow. It's never really in the light.
Well, thank you for being here today, though.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that way we can see that shadow.
Yeah, no,
Right?
I had to come out,
The man behind
and
the
let it
voice
be.
of the voiceless.
And that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Well, like, and as I told you before, like, I don't mind. I run into things forward. I don't back out. Never back down. Because I know what and who I am, right? And my bloodline is the same thing, right? But we only seek for the best, and we're, like they would say, like we're plugged into the community, right? And we only want the greatest to come from it, right? Whether it's the financial greatness, health greatness, we want our people to strive just the same as anybody else, and I think we have always been overlooked or robbed, and so it have to be corrected.
Right. So I hear a lot of challenges. However, you had a goal that you were trying to get at.
Yeah.
And you did, along the way with other people.
Yeah.
Right. To get to. So basically, there's been a lot of changes. Doors have been opened. Right.
It's technology of shift.
Okay.
Who is in control, right? Because now you can. Before, I remember the first studio we went to. That's the other reason. The first studio we ever went to, it took me 2 hours to get there. Smash Band Studio. There's a picture somewhere where we're in the middle of the road, looking downtown, like hands up in the air, like, oh man, it was a basement, right? My man Baby C, I put him on, right? There's a lot of cool little things in it, and Jordan was just like in the basement, a whiz kid, doing what he does.
Nice.
But I also always believe that our culture must be controlled by us. It's respectable that others are in it, but it's still our culture.
Right.
Right? And so technology has now come where guys can record from their car, their basement, in the middle of the street. Like it's a good and it's bad at the same time, because when COVID hit, it hit the entertainment zone first, right? I was lucky that because I signed a contract with my second office, for instance, my other buddy's like, man, screw that. I'm like, no, I'm loyal to anything that I do.
Right.
So I see that through. You know what I'm saying? I bankroll it myself. Rock and roll and doubt with what it is. But my office became a beacon for other people that was our home and they were losing their thought box. So I told them, come on down. I even created a fountain, a plant, a garden within the office where people could just come and just say, hey, there's tomatoes here, eh?
Yeah.
And just little things like that. But then we were doing live streaming shows from the office. And this is when I knew like technology is going so fast that you can't, if you have a talent and you're willing to perceive and pursue your talent, you can utilize that. Right. And so now people that would want to put chains on the artists and change on the community of what it is can't do it as much anymore, because I don't really need you to get the music to the people anymore. When my last album that we released, it was called 1111, and we just did it straight from our site to people, right? Because I wanted to test that concept as well, right? And people just say, okay, cool, all right, tell me. And just, you know what I mean? Like, it was wonderful to see what it is. So I knew I didn't have to go to Spotify. It's great on the wider side of things, right? But it changes. Like, I have another friend that works, he went to Vietnam. He moved to Vietnam, for instance. He owns a crypto company. But he's working with this huge, their music distributor and a game company, right? And so we were discussing, because he worked with he worked with Dell over here, the computer company beforehand.
okay.
And so he's like, man, I got a guy for you, right? And so we linked up with another company, and that's what I'm in the middle of doing right now. Because these guys, the company pays much higher than Spotify and all that stuff. So I'm trying to work out the full detail before I put my son on there, before I put the other artists that I know on there. But they're willing, like as technology advances, they're at the forefront. Some of the bigger artists that we know are inclined with them.
Right.
Right. And so I'm blessed to, again, as I said, made great friends, work with good people, but have a great, like PO in the sense of like respectable construct in the business.
Oh.
You know? So that's a part of the whole
Yeah.
toughest like pieces.
So technology has opened
Technology.
the door. So there's a plain level field for everyone. It's up to you as an artist
Yes.
to believe in yourself,
Yes.
right, and pursue that goal.
Yes.
No
It's
more
like,
excuses.
no more like if this is where you want to go with it, this is where you're going to
Yeah.
go with it, right? It can be done, right? And it's just all it takes is a little bit of like discussion. You know what I mean? We also have YouTube. You know what I mean? It's to factor in how you want to take the steps and just be real to it. You know, like I got one, say for instance, we worked on this other album and it's called City in My Living Room.
Okay.
And the name for it, because the one before, the original one, Pangea 1111, now City in My Living Room. And City in My Living Room is like just like everyone globally can see what's going on, right? From their own living room. So it's like different cities in my living room, and like we use a lot of metaphor. And then the final album, my final bow out, it's called Theater.
Okay.
Because all this is gimmicks and game, right? So we're chasing things, but everything at the end of the day comes back down to what? Financial difference. And so this is where we have the conference each year. We're on our third, kind of like a year, but I'll get it.
To get into that. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks to you and the many people that have worked so hard to have the urban scene in Alberta have that recognition that they deserve. And I know my husband, Wanduni, has benefited from, right? He was part of Tough House, and I see the growth over the years. So thanks for being a mentor to the many.
I'm thankful
like
for
Kaz
him.
and Samjay and, you know.
That's it, right? That's all. Like, thank you very much.
It's,
you know, like I just look at it where the young man and young woman that came to the house, you know, they knew when they came there, like, you're going to deal with a bunch of madness. But that madness is for love, you know, because that's the beauty about it, right? Like, it's having a place where you could just express yourself, you know, and till this day, that's what we try to keep afloat. You need a space to express and speak and create and all that. And, you know, like, and again, connections. So just like a bird, you know, like Tough House itself, again, we're like a nest, you know, we have our little chicklets that comes. And we fly, you know, like when they're old enough to do what their part is. You know, like I look at Samjay, I look at your husband, right? I look at Kaz, I look at Chubbs, you know, like I call it, they're all my kids. I love it.
That's why now it makes, well, for our viewers, they'll put things into perspective when, you know, they say you're the granddaddy or the godfather.
It's you know, like it's just it's a wonderful thing. Right? Because without, you know, if I was pardon my language, I don't know if I can swear, but I was maybe not. All right. If I was a hard ass, pardon, like, you know, it would be a different tale. A lot of guys would have like disdain from me. But I've always give whatever that you need, and I have, you can have it, right? And it's the only way we move forward, right? it's by, love is always the key, but hard work and respect goes a long way. And I'm thankful for the younger guys that they trust me, because a lot of time I was driving blind, but I just had the fate or where we were going, the direction, right? Because like we were doing something that has never been done in Alberta, in the Midwest in general, right? And it was on us. I remember when MTV2 came to Canada, and we had to drive through winter to go to Vancouver to go do the interview, but only to go there and we didn't do the interview because they messed up. So we had to drive back through, and while we're coming through, coming through Jasper, there was a dead moose on the road, and we didn't see the moose, so we went all flying over. We stopped, and Reason and myself and Meeks pulled this moose out of the road, just because we didn't want anybody else to, but we made it back to Alberta in like one of the worst winter storms.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So that's one. We went to Calgary when Calgary was expanding on the urban scene. Met with, the hell's his name? Oh, I'll tell you in a second. But, he's, now I want to say Mos Def, but it's not Mos Def. Chaos.
Okay.
I'm a young cat. I said, hey, how's the scene? How do you like the scene? Like, what do you think about the urban scene? Like, just sort of chit chat, right? Me and the music management, they're good people. Chaos looked at me and he's like, man, God will save us.
Yeah.
And I was like, for a moment there, I was like, God, like, what the hell? I'm just asking you about the scene. Why are you dropping this on me, right? And so, we chit chat. But I realized as well, there was a DJ from out east. He was a brown DJ. He was DJing in Calgary. And he would not play Alberta music. And for that, I'll never forgive that guy. Because he was bent on only playing Ontario music within Alberta and disrespecting Alberta's hip-hop and Alberta urban scene and but people don't know this. So for me, and as I said, because again, this is my blood, I said, okay, cool. I'm going to start bringing concerts. So I brought the concerts. And that same DJ tried to attach to the concert. I said, no. Right? There's different ways to catch you.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a trap.
That's the game. Because I knew that I could bag my money on what it is, And the idea and the reality is you're going to have that. You're going to have a lot of people that are trying to block you. But the only failure is when you stop doing what you love and what you want to do.
That's right.
That's all it is.
So keep moving on.
Exactly.
Keep chasing that dream.
No
compromise though, right?
You don't need to compromise. You just got to be.
Because you're still doing all of this within the context of a family, a community.
Yeah.
Right.
Always.
Building relationships.
We build different artists, goes. Some of the hardest guys in the world, I call them. The most outrageous fellas.
Yeah.
But they're still a part of it because, again, the ways of man. Men have many different ways. Who am I to judge how somebody approach their music? I'm just here to help guide you. I'm just here to give you the essence, the seeds.
So you're like that father figure. And then you kind of
That's
help them grow to the point where they can go on their own.
They're big enough, and if they're like, oh man, I'm messing up, let me call this guy. We're here to help counsel it.
That's awesome.
Right? There's numerous times I'm minding my own business and people are like, oh, I've been looking for you forever. I'm like, my number is there. You know where to find me.
That's right.
And I'll chit chat with them and we figure out what needs to be done. It's just, again, the willingness to lend a ears and give what it is. But people, you have to respect to go that space.
Awesome.
So I'm thankful that they gave me that respect, like to give them a bit of hope.
Yeah.
You know, I'm blessed in that sense.
That's nice. Well, thank you for all you've done.
Yeah, we're far from finished, but we're
Yeah,
going.
no, the journey continues.
Yes.
Right. But as long as we see little progress here and there.
And
right?
that's it, right?
That's what counts.
You know,
right?
and, you know, but while I was at the studio, the last one, my office got broken into. We got broken into 5 times. Right? 5, but I understand COVID. So the last time I called the fella, you know, and I was so angry, but I still fed the fella. And I had to sit him down and ask him why. Right? And he explained how, you know, like, to go back to politics, the government's failed. Right? And he was from Nova Scotia. He was here as a welder. He got caught up from the doctors giving him opioids, and it went out the window. And I'm like, man, people work hard for this stuff, right? But again, I believe all things were like is created in a certain way, because the day before, my friend, I was at her and her husband's place. She's like, I got a whole bunch of bread and all these stuff. Give it to the guys at the studio. I was like, oh man. So I brought it there. And this ended up feeding this fellow that broke into my office.
Wow.
And, you know, after that, I was just like, after the 5th break-in, I realized I had to move back off the Ave. You know, I loved the Ave, but I had to find a better understanding. But again, while I was there, like the different solutions that was coming to me.
Okay.
Because people get caught up in the construct of art, right? But art costs. So the question is, you know, like, how are you funding your art? How are you funding what you want to do, right? You have other people that seek, like, the negative, right? But that's one way. But if we understand the legacy of the financial business, it would change a lot of us. And that's where health and wealth came in.
Okay. So before we go to health and wellness, where is Tough House now, and where is Tough House headed? Because I know Havana, your son, is part of.
So Havana got his own thing that he's rocking, he's doing.
Cool.
But Tough House is still here.
Okay.
Right, and
after
so
how many years?
Like we're in we're going on 31 now.
Wow, amazing!
It's finally growing up.
Still growing strong.
Kid's grown up, you know, like he's my first kid,
nice.
Right? But we started signing more one-off like album. So there's a great young MC, or she goes by Tiffany, but I called her her name with us was She, right? But now she goes by T Fanny, out of Calgary and Edmonton, and she's brilliant. You know, an artist. She does her thing. I love her. You know, and so one album, she did a piece, rock and roll with it, right? And so we just, because Tough House, again, it's the bridge to get to where I needed to get to. And now my son is also in charge of that with my overview as well, right? So if he sees an artist and his stuff that he's doing, it doesn't fit, then we'll rock and roll with it. You know, so we're there in that process. But because my other business that we started and we opened up needed more attention, because my big boy's grown.
Yeah.
He's in his 30s, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta say, hey, we can always get back to
give him chance to grow even more. Right?
It's now the babies that we gotta feed. We gotta make sure that we, properly dress and put it together. And so these are all the other companies that we have that we're working with, and pushing forward.
Right.
So that's where Tough House is.
Awesome. All right. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So this is more sensitive to me, but thank you for agreeing to share this very sensitive part of your story.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of our viewers out there some of them might be going through it or know somebody and this is a very crucial aspect of our communities.
No worries.
So share with our viewers your experience being in prison, your perspective and how that shaped you to be who you are.
Yeah.
And speak to our youth out there that might come across this episode.
Well, years back before I had my son, so I was wilding. Young, dumb and wilding, right? And, it's funny because you have a lot of these, the artists, they would rhyme about bricks and this and all that stuff. And we're not talking about the political bricks, but we're talking about drugs, right? And just the different pieces flexing. And I always saw people that said, been there, done that. The objective of it is surpass what we can do. So I went away, got locked up, for one of the big things in the country. As a youngster, I was at the time I was 18, right? And turn time. It's funny because once you go behind bars, you start realizing not just the opportunities, you also start realizing that there's wise people there. But I also believe that the Creator put me in a place not just to humble me, but also to gain wisdom that way as well, right? And gaining wisdom I did. But my experience it wasn't the prettiest thing. But it was people that, one, was trying to get rich quick. Two, didn't understand the construct of what the value of money was, because that was the main reason. You also have people with mental illness that was in there as well. And it was a huge thing. And so as a youngster, I remember one day I was laughing because we were going to the gym. And my one buddy was just like, man, there's nothing to laugh about. People are locked up here. People take this seriously. So he kind of put me onto game in a sense, because people see you laughing and then they'll take it personally and try to harm you. Now, I don't know none of that process, but I know I can defend myself because I had to more than once, But I caught what he was saying. So I said, okay, cool, right? And so you started seeing the different levels. There were a man that was in there that couldn't cook meal for themselves. Grown man, right? And as I passed through the system and started seeing the value of what life is, it makes a major change. So, now that I'm a dad, my son's turning 21 years old. He's much further ahead of me than where I was when I was his age, right? But the difference is my father wasn't in the picture as though he should be. For me, my son, before conceiving, after conceiving, until manhood, I've always been in the picture. So he's always could bounce anything from me, idea, right? Even if me and his mom was at it, I still had a respect to say, hey, you brought life for me. So I have to give her that love and respect and that value. You know what I mean? Because no matter what, I couldn't bring life without her, right? So the understanding in that, right? But it took me time behind bars,
right,
to basically fully, as I grew, to catch that play, right? And reality is true, right? So for a lot of people that said, hey man, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you can do it, but you have to understand the difference in how you want to achieve it. The system is set up to trap you. This is where the term the trap comes from. If you fall to what the trap is. Now, a lot of people don't study the markets, right? That's one of my biggest things. I love the market, right? The market produce, but you have to take the time to study it, meaning the stock markets, right? You also have to say, what can you bring that's needed? Value. What is the value that you can bring? Take the time, right? For a lot of youngsters that's coming up as well, you will drink with each other, but every time you put that toxic in your body, you kill yourself, right? One of the wealthiest men, Arnaud, he's 75 years old out of France. He owns Hennessy, for instance, right? He owns Louis Vuitton. He got his whole family working with him, right? Even his half-sons. The difference with that is every time, COVID made him wealthier, for instance, because people was buying like it's going on a stock, but you mess your interior system up. Don't get me wrong. You want to enjoy? Go ahead. Take your time and enjoy. But be wise to what you do, because when you put that poison in your system, you not only want to now go and seek violence, right? They will sell you the liquor. They'll arrest you for opening the liquor bottle, right? Simple as that. Ask yourself how much money you're blowing elsewhere instead of putting it into something constructive, right? You will eat together, all that, but yet so we don't trust. And so we have to trust each other to build with each other, right? Every other community goes out and they do that, right? And then they extract from our community. Our community is the biggest, we're the wealthiest people on this planet, the original man. But they extract from our community and say we don't have nothing, right? So the kids have to think the opposite way. If you don't have nothing, why are you extracting from the person with nothing, right? When you start thinking that, you start understanding the value of whom you is. So the jail system, right? The elders within there that was going through it, I remember one guy say, "Hey man, you're too smart. Don't ever come back here." I was like, I guess, but it also, again, as was said, to teach me not to have fear, right? Not to run when I'm threatened in certain way, knowing that I've already achieved this, I can perceive. But the main goal is to bring nothing but positivity to build us, right? And so studying that, whether it's from the financial side of things, but also studying the behavior of man and the behavior of things, go back to the word WayZ. You know what I mean? Because it was on that where I had to continue. Also prayed with the Muslim brothers, like in answer to that, the Christian brothers. But at the end of the day, we were one circle of brothers, right? Behind bars. Some guys were like, "Man, I'm innocent. I didn't know." And it's hilarious because some of those guys were found innocent. But then you also have the revolving door. I remember when I got in there, these guys were going out on day parole. And by time I was getting set to leave, these guys were coming back right in. Right? And it's because they only know one way of life. Right? So the biggest thing we got to do is switch our consciousness, our thoughts, our behavior. But it also comes with what you put in your system. You are what you eat. If you eat crappy food, you're going to create and behave crappily. I was saying earlier that I had a guy that's 67 years old playing soccer with us.
Nice.
Right? Full-blown running. We are what we eat. If we want to strive and be great, we have to eat, properly. Hence how I got into farming and all that stuff. But we'll proceed.
All right. Thank you. And thanks for breaking the cycle, right? Because I've always wondered how somebody like you could come out and continue to do great. But then you have, other people that are trapped, like the revolving door. And I know sometimes mental health issues, has a room to play. So thank you. And now you're,
We're trying our hardest to continue to make sure that the kids, they don't fall down that steps.
Because at the end of the day, that's what you're teaching your son now.
My son's blessed in the level where when he was in little school, I taught him finance.
Okay.
But this kid was like, he was playing chess. I'm playing checkers and he's playing chess. And I'm like, who taught you this? And he's like, oh, I learned it in daycare. I was like, what? Because he picked up on it, but he's been an early reader. He was reading from when he was 3 years old, right? Because like my saying was, I want him to be greater than I on all levels. But once I start understanding more and more, and I dive more into the market, into the investment stuff, like he was the guy, like, because, even in COVID, he was going through high school in a homeschool.
Oh, okay.
And I wake him up and like, come look at this trade, and it's like, oh, Dad, like, but he understood, right? So as I carry my tribe with me, right, like I show them the moves. They can follow, they cannot, they can do whatever, because there's different ways. But always owning a business is also a key part. Alberta is the prime place to own business, right? If you cannot own a business one way, there's different ways to do it, right? Come together and trust.
All right. So thanks again for all you've done, being a pioneer for the urban scene in Alberta, and for being a mentor to, all of the many great OGs we have in the city. And you created a blueprint for them, because I'm sure some of them have their own businesses now.
And that's the main thing.
Right. And you're proud.
Very proud.
Proud granddaddy.
I'm very proud. Like, that's why I said, like, it's just, it's a wonderful thing.
That's nice. It's a blessing, for sure. So, you are business-minded. You've been an entrepreneur since younger age. It's not only music for Havana, Orville, Havana, and you're now into health and wellness. Walk us through what that is and how it's, because also you're a community-driven individual. So everything that you do is all, kind of centered around community. So this is another way that you could bring awareness about health into the community.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Like, we got into health and wealth, which is funny because I think it's like by divineness.
Okay.
Because I was at the studio and I was there and I was like, I got a message from a friend of mine passed away from gout.
Okay.
Now, gout it's called the Richmond disease, right? Because certain food will create it within your system, right? And it's painful if you don't take care of it. And so you went to the doctor. They prescribed certain things. They prescribed 2 different pills. His heart jumped. He passed away. Now, I'm the godfather to his 3 kids, right? So it just kind of hurt me. Like, it hit me because I'm like, man, this man won't see his kids grow into what they can become, right? How can I try to find a way, find a void that needs to be solved and help. And so as, I'm there minding my own business, I sat down and it's like something telling me, hey, you're from this because my grandfolks, they're herbalists, hence my last name Green, from the land, right? And so so I said, okay, well, I was taught this early in my years. I just thought my mom was crazy, pardon my language. But she would teach me how to plant, grow, all these things. Like her grandma taught her as well. And so so we have a rich line of growing herbs and knowing what it does and all that. But I just think, well, whatever. Like, you know, this is kind of the same thing my son later on
Right.
with a farm. And, you know, so as I fall back and I start looking at it, I realize, okay, well, something have to be done. And so this is where I got into on the health side. But I also understand that you can't have like you can't have one without the other. The
Right.
wealth. So that's a different division as well, like the financial side to it.
Okay.
So, you know, like, so that's where health and wealth come in, because like the wealth side is like to teach people to manage their money, one, to invest their money, two, and to also build together, right? But you can have billions and billions and trillions of dollars. If you don't have health, it means nothing.
True.
Right? And so this is where we started to come in. And so again, to go back to the divine things, I'm there sitting at my office. A fellow that, like a friend of mine, Kareem, he show up. He's like, oh man, I was driving by. Because he lived off the Ave. So I'm like, all right, what the hell do you want, right? We're there talking. He said, hey, I got a friend that I went to school in England with. He owns a water company. So alkaline, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. I needed that. Like, yeah. So he's like, would he be down to invest? So I said, okay, cool. Let's rock with it. Let's see what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right? Because I trust him. He's a friend. And if this guy's your friend, then I guess he's my friend too.
Right.
So we met and sat down and went over what we needed to went over. And, you know, like that's where like these water that I'll be giving to you guys after.
Yeah.
Like for health.
I'm
you
all
know,
about
like it's
health.
it's strengthen the bones and all
Okay.
that, right? So this is the alkaline water. Like
Okay.
it's the health and wealth, like alkaline water. This is a tree of life.
Yeah.
This is the beautiful, you know, the black lady with a fro, but she's so well possessed that, you know, it ties right into the bottle.
Nice.
I mean, the cans. So that was a part of it. Then I was talking to my cousin, my elder cousin, and he's always like, don't worry, cuz, stress-free, baby, I'm out here. He lives on the island in BC. And so, like, they're into rubs, topicals, all these stuff, right? He works with other, nurses and all that stuff, right? And so we decided, hey, let's do something. And so, you know, like, so we started dealing with all the rubs and stuff. And so everything that we started collaborating with, this is like coffee from Uganda.
Okay.
From local grown folks over there, right? Like, and so we try to make sure that everything is for the people, by the people, and we all creates these different essence to bless the body. Because to go back to what I say, you are what you eat.
That's right.
Right? And so like the teas, I have a natural I should say tea farm where we grow mints and all kind of fantastic herbs.
Nice.
And we break it down and put it where it needs to put to help the people. But that's on the other thing, right? I'm also into farming.
That's right.
Because, like, you know, I got sheep, goat, all that. After dealing with all the artists over the years and losing my noodles, going crazy, like, concerts and all this stuff.
A quiet place, right?
We needed a place to just relax. And so I'm thankful with my other partners, you know, like that we go out, we build, and we continue. And it's wonderful, right? The animals are great. They just do their thing. They graze, they go, you know, and they bring life to me, right? And so on top of that, because again, being in the economy and seeing what's taking place, I understood that food was going to rise. So because I could see that it was coming 3 years ahead, I had to make sure that I'm properly possessed, like in a play where I can not only now help my mother and the elders, all that. I also grow gardens for the older people as well.
Oh, nice.
So, but I try to help, you know, as much as we can overall,
Yeah.
right? Because this is the main structure. So as these young businesses that we own, like people can check us out at like at healthandwealthessentials.com,
Okay.
right? And so the young business that we have, it's more so to continue. This right here, I'm gonna give it to you though.
Yeah. It's all about giveaway.
It's, like I believe this is a vanilla.
Okay. I like
So this vanilla is real vanilla. I want you to take a moment. I know you're alive and doing your thing, but I want you to take a moment.
This is why this platform is unique, because everybody shares their story in a different way. So I like this.
I want you to smell it. Yes.
Nice.
See, that's real vanilla. Most of the stuff they sell in stores is not. So this, we have to fly it in all the way from the islands.
Wow.
Right? To get it
all
into
locally
Canada,
made.
Right?
Amazing.
And so this is like, you can just a tap when you're baking or in a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
Takes, the other vanilla, if you look up how the artificial vanilla, you won't want it. But people don't know, right? And that's the thing. So
I'm
that's
gonna enjoy this.
That's a part of
Thank you.
the health pieces, that the health and wealth construct, right? And again, the main objective at the end of the day is to show that not just like myself, but others can do it too. But it's the willingness to do it, and there's a willingness to think differently,
right,
and to pursue what you want to achieve. That's the biggest goal. You have to take the time to do. So with all the different businesses that we're in and we're working with, we're working with so many different companies.
Okay.
Right? Black companies as well.
Nice. Promote
like
the community.
Well, it's on us. We have to invest in our people and show them and sometimes when they make mistakes, they're going to make mistakes. They're human. Right. But it's to make sure that we have their back and we keep them up. Because when they do strike gold, it's going to be not just for them, but also for you.
That's right.
So that's a part of it.
Great advice right there.
Yes.
Okay.
And blessings.
All right. So one more time, where can...
where people can get...
Yeah.
healthandwealthessentials.com.
Okay.
All right. healthandwealthessentials.com. Take your time, check us out. You don't have to order the house, but take a moment and just see what it is. If you are worried about something that your body needs, we have stuff that boosts iron. Stuff that help to flush your system.
What about weight loss?
Weight loss, we have that too, a balance.
A healthy way.
We carry a lot of sea moss.
Okay.
Right? Sea moss it's 94 different minerals for your body. It's one of the best you can ever have. Right? And so it not only get you right, we have a thing called sea buckthorn, where correct your lenses, aging, hair, skin, your bowl system.
So getting your system into the right balance.
You gotta take care of your vehicle. Your spiritual vehicle is your body.
Right. Our temple.
And that's what it is. Yeah. So I'm thankful on that. Again, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing. So check it out. Try one product at a time. I'm gonna enjoy mine, and you can reach out to me. And I'll let you know what it was like. Okay. Thank you so much. Now, in one word, how can you describe all what you've shared with us today on this podcast?
I was saying, the greatest to ever do it. But one word, greatness.
Greatness. And why is that?
Because coming from the struggles, seeing the change and building others into a great space and all that, nothing else but greatness. To the moon and beyond, they would say. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I see that. I see young Orville, Havana making strides. You had a, dream you pursued, and there are people that can attest to all of that greatness, right?
And that's
And
all.
you're still moving on through all your experiences.
That's it. That's all we can ask for.
That's right.
The more we can do, I want people to really understand, especially the youths, because they're the future. It's up to you. The only way you lose is when you stop pushing for what you want to achieve, and be conscientious of whom you have around you.
Awesome.
Negative is never good, because if you understand the construct with the cells in our body, and that's the other thing about health and wealth, we learn about the cellular behavior, right? The vibrations. And negativity is an illness to the vibration to move further, stronger, and faster. So let's focus on winning. That's all I can say.
Awesome. Well, we're already getting into our advice segments. So what advice, would you give to our youth out there?
Truthfully, there's so much.
Okay.
That's what I said before.
Right.
But one of the other things is more so read. We have lost the way of reading. There's a lot of information within books. There's a lot of information on Google. But read and understand, take the time to look at the difference in what the information you're consuming is, right? Because you do have an information pollution that's in play, right? And too much information of wrong will cause your overload. Drink and smoke limitly, less. I can't tell you to stop if this is what you do, but I can tell you to limit it in order to strive forward. Because I'll tell you this, it only gets worse and worse and worse. There's so many people that's fallen ill and passing away at a young age. So take your time, to make sure that your health is key, your mind is right, because the biggest failure is when your mind fails you. Because it is what brings things in. And also be careful of what you say. Words have power. And when you, again, speak ill, it becomes ill. So whether you're speaking down to a lady, or speaking down to yourself, or speaking down to your brothers, it will create chaos. So focus on striving forward, and focus on winning the day and the night that the Creator gives us. Thank you.
Community. Speak on community.
Community is life. Without community, you have nothing, right? And again, we have to support our community. The reason why I say this is my Chinese friends, for instance, when they come in town, they go to Chinatown to put their money into it. My Lebanese friends, they do the same thing. We just like to jump like fishes everywhere. We have to understand that the game that we're in, spending currency, we can't complain when a black business, for instance, go under because we didn't support it. We can't complain that we want the best, but we treat our business and our community the worst. So we have to be the change we want to see. That's the facts of community. And community will build you when you're there as a fist. You know, the fellow, and before I leave, the young man that got killed by the police officer, gunned down, and they try to lie about it. A strong community, they don't do that to. A community that utilize their finance, they don't do that to. A community that understand this is what we need to do to hit them in the right place, they don't do that too. No matter what goes down, they will not go out of their way to kill, whether it's a Jewish fella, an East Indian fella, a Pakistani fella, a Chinese fella, a Lebanese fella. They will arrest them or they'll back off. We have to build a dome around our community, and we have to support our community and stand 10 toes down. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's a nice way to end this podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all the insights, the awareness, all your experiences that you shared with us today. And I'm sure our viewers are going to benefit from this podcast immensely.
Blessings and love.
Thank you. Appreciate. Well, thank you all viewers for joining us this evening on Our Lives Narratives. We'll continue to bring stories like this that would inspire and motivate and create awareness. So my take-home message today is community. Let's continue to support our communities, build our communities. That's the best we can do, and try to pass on those values to our kids.
To the future.
So we can continue to keep our communities alive.
There we go.
Continue to follow us on all our social media platforms and check out all of our other episodes until we meet again. As I always say, it's our lives and our stories. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.